Welcome to Something to Talk About. I'm Linda McNamee, and for the next hour, we are going to be talking about caring for cute furry animals, and maybe even some not so furry animals. So I would like to thank you for tuning in this evening. We are not live, so hopefully you will have a happy Thanksgiving. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me any time of day or night by emailing talk@bcattv.org. And as usual, beginning my shows, I love to thank and acknowledge the crew who has given up their Wednesday evening to come here and work on the show. We have Colleen Moore, who is my director, and she's here faithfully and make sure that the show looks good. I won't say anything about me. But we also have Jolie Atwood, Stephanie Floridis, sorry Stephanie, I'll get it right eventually, and Maddie Darity. And thank you for giving up your Wednesdays and not doing homework this evening. And I would also like to thank Mike Duval and Corey McNeil, who are staff members here at BCAT, who help keep everything running smoothly. And last but definitely not least, I would like to thank my husband Paul for staying home for Daddy Date Night. Hopefully the evening will be quiet. And now I would like to welcome my wonderful guest and her furry companion. We have Julia Pesek.
Yes.
Right? And a very sleepy Theory.
Yes, exactly. This is a good guest.
So thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
And I love animals. So anyway, I can't wait to find out more about caring for animals, adoption do's and don'ts, and all that kind of stuff. But before we actually get into that, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, how you came to this area, and how you started working for the MSPCA?
Sure. I'm actually originally from Chicago. I grew up in a suburb and lived there for most of my adult life, and then I moved to Massachusetts when I was coming here for grad school a few years ago.
Okay.
And so I went to Tufts and got a master's in animals and public policy.
Ooh,
Very
wow.
small
Okay.
little program that I didn't even know existed, but was exactly what I was looking for. I wanted to make a career change, so
Okay.
I've spent 25 years volunteering at animal shelters and
Fun.
wanted to find a way to make it into an actual
To get paid.
career, yes.
And not get paid in kitty litter.
Right. So after school was over, I knew I wanted to stay in Massachusetts and found my job at the MSPCA, and that's where I've been ever since.
Okay, now when you started working for the MSPCA, did you start up in Methuen at Nevins Farm, or
I did.
Did you work down at Angel, or is the staff interchangeable, or?
Some people will go from one property to the next just when their location changes or they want to try something different. But I've had the same position the whole time. I wanted to help in development and fundraising, and I actually didn't even know that the position existed. I just came up and
Who knew?
Yeah, asked to talk to some key people, and there was the job that I didn't know existed waiting for me. So
Excellent.
very strange, but I hope they're as happy about me being there as I've been. And so
sure
yeah,
they are.
I hope so.
Theory seems to be happy with
Theory's
with-
happy.
with
I think
you.
Theory would be happy with anything, though. She's a very easy dog.
Looking for a forever home.
Yes, yes.
So, okay, now Nevins, MSPCA up in Methuen is unique because it's a farm. It's Nevins Farm. You guys take all kinds of animals.
Yeah, it's just a special property. It's beautiful, it's historic, but also it's not just cats and dogs, and it's so much more than that. It's birds and reptiles and rabbits and
You have reptiles there? I don't remember seeing them.
well, they're not always there, but
I'm
when
probably hiding from them because I'm not a big reptile fan.
every kind of small animal that's legal to own, we will take in, and then we have our farm and equine center. So that's really what sets us apart. It's a very unique property for any SPCA or Humane Society.
Okay, because you have definitely have horses.
We have 22 stalls and a few run-ins, and then we have about the same amount of horses off property and foster as well.
Oh,
So
wow.
we have pigs and goats, and we've had emus and alpaca.
Wow.
You know, you name it. If
Now, do these come from like household pets,
they
or
do. People have, you know, little backyard farms,
Wow.
and for a variety of reasons, either they can't keep them anymore, or they come in through a law enforcement case, and they end up at Nevins. And so, my favorite story was when we had the emu and a pig at the same time. They'd actually come from the same property, and during the day, the barn staff would let them run through the hallway of the barn, and somebody came into the house that I work out of and said, "There's an ostrich and a pig running loose in the barn. Is that normal?" And I said, "Yes."
actually, yeah.
So we get a little bit of everything.
Okay. I often thought about getting a goat to just keep my lawn
They're very good
nicely
lawnmowers.
manicured.
Yeah,
And I heard
they're
they even
good friends.
eat poison ivy with
They do. Yeah,
no
they're great for
harm.
clearing that. Yeah.
Yep.
And they're so cute.
I don't think I need a goat though.
Okay. Well.
Brought my kids to a farm once, and the goat kind of traumatized my then 3-year-old. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
So how you do definitely have a wide variety of animals at Nevins Farm. Now, is it technically the MSPCA or Nevins Farm, or
It's the MSPCA at Nevins Farm. It was the property originally was a rest home for horses. It was a gift to us from Harriet Nevins, so that's where the name comes from.
Okay.
So we're getting ready in 2017 to celebrate our 100th anniversary of the gift from Harriet Nevins.
Excellent.
So it's
Party.
there will be a party. So it is one of the 3 MSPCA shelter locations, but it's also just known as Nevins Farm.
Okay. I just wasn't sure what I should be calling it.
Oh, any of those things
Okay.
we respond to.
All right. So how do the animals come there? We kind of touched upon it, but is there like, yeah, I mean, are there any unique stories or certain cases or?
Variety of reasons. Sometimes it's just people that their circumstances change and they can no longer care for the animals, and so they'll bring them to us. Sometimes the animals are coming off a stray hold and they're leaving animal control and coming to us to go up for adoption.
Okay.
And then
Do you ever get them from like zoos? Like
we haven't had that happen yet.
Okay.
And then we have sometimes law enforcement cases where they'll seize
Okay.
animals.
Yeah, I remember not too long ago, like out in Ludlow, there was the person who had like a
That's
bazillion.
where the emu came from.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I actually went with them that day. I'm not barn staff, but I went with them anyway,
okay.
and it was very interesting. But it was a pretty
Interesting in a scary kind of
It
way.
was a
I
pretty
would think.
dramatic day, and it was pretty remarkable the conditions that the animals were still surviving in.
Wow.
So I think that day we took about 35 animals off the property. And
And did
brought
they
them
all go back up to Nevins Farm? Or?
ARL came with us, Animal Rescue League,
Okay.
Boston, and they took a few goats and a couple horses, I believe, back, and maybe a donkey.
Okay.
So we ended up with, I think, about 33 or 35 of the animals. There were
Wow.
a few more than that.
Because
probably
your
total.
farm is big, but
It's big.
there's only so many emus you can have running around the barn.
Yeah.
You know?
So we were in situations like that. It's because I think we brought back 12 horses that day. We
How
have
do you
to
transport them?
trailers, lots of trailers.
Wow. Yeah, you need a lot of trailers.
A lot of trailers, and that's one of the reasons I went. They needed somebody else to drive another van, so that was me. But in those cases, you know, when we're full, we have to move really quickly and move animals out into foster. So even horses will just have to make some phone calls and make some space available, because you can't really, you know, you might be able to squeeze another cat in a room, but another horse in the stall doesn't usually work. So
or another emu.
yeah.
I'm gonna be obsessing about the emu thing
Oh,
now.
he was neat.
Okay.
He was pretty neat. So we have to get pretty creative pretty quickly. This winter too, we took in a law enforcement case of dachshunds from
Wow. Okay.
a backyard breeder in
Was this in the
Westminster.
news?
Yes.
Okay, I thought I remember. Okay.
Our location took in over 30 of them. There were, I believe, about 70, 72.
Okay. I think I remember seeing a couple of dachshunds the last time I was there, but only a couple.
Oh, these guys went right away.
Okay.
People came out in droves.
Now, do you think it's because it was a high-profile case?
High-profile cases always do, and you know, you tug on their heartstrings by saying, you know, these animals were living in deplorable conditions and just being used as breeding stock. We want to provide them with a better life, and so everybody wants to open their home to an animal like that. And dachshunds are such an engaging breed
Okay.
that it, you know, the sad part is that they came from a terrible situation, and then the wonderful part is that, we had so many times more people than we had dogs that we were able to find the most ideal homes for each of them. So that's kind of the silver lining in situations like that.
Couple of tangent questions. With the high, the high profile, you do get a lot more people coming in to want to adopt them. Do they ever end up adopting another animal that's not a high profile case?
Yeah, sometimes. Some people...
I came here for a dachshund, but this Pomeranian is just so cute.
It does happen.
Yes,
because
you are very cute.
She's so cute. It does happen because sometimes, the dog that you really want to help isn't a good companion for the dog that you have in your home right now. And that actually happened with some of the dachshunds. It just wasn't a match.
Now, are you allowed to return an animal in those cases?
Of course, yeah. So we work when we bring in dogs especially, we do a pretty comprehensive behavior profile on them to find out how they do with small dogs, how they do with larger dogs, cats, noises, kids, all sorts of different...
Yeah, I've noticed the little checklists on all the animal cages.
And so that gives us a lot of information about what kind of home they might be a good fit for. So there's often times where people have a certain animal that they're interested in, but we'll coach them and advise them about maybe somebody that might be a better fit for them. But there's always, and we'll have dog intros beforehand, and certainly if there's something that's not working well in the home initially, we're more than happy. I mean, we absolutely want to be a resource where we can
find a good home.
Yeah, we want to make it work, but if it doesn't, we absolutely want to be the place where they come back to. We'll just try again, and there's no judgment. Some things just don't work.
Yeah.
So it happens.
Yeah, as I was telling you before the show, my cat used to be on Valium, so, you're not really dealing with logical creatures here, and
not
you can't
always
explain to them.
Right.
The other tangent I had was, we talked about the case in Westminster, we talked about the case in Ludlow. So, everybody else can do the math, but I'm forgetting the year, but like hurricane cases, like when Hurricane Katrina destroyed New Orleans, a lot of animals were displaced, and they ended up... Do you get like natural disaster animals coming your way?
We would if they're probably if they're local within the state of Massachusetts. So if there's a disaster, we would definitely be a landing spot for them. We typically don't take in animals from other states from natural disasters, just because our mission is to be an open admission shelter for the state of Massachusetts. So our primary intent is to always offer an open space for any animal that comes to our door. And so there are a number of organizations in the state of Massachusetts that bring in animals from the South, from Puerto Rico, from other states. And so they're usually the ones that would respond to a national disaster in Louisiana or something like that and bring them up here.
All right. Now, we're talking about, taking in animals. Can you tell me a little more about the surrendering process? How does somebody surrender an animal? Do you ever try to talk them out of it? Or, what's that whole process?
We absolutely do try and talk them out of it. If there's, it's a conversation that we want to have with somebody. So we will take any animal that comes to our door, but we'll have a really frank conversation with people about how likely we think it is that we can find a great home for their dog or cat or horse. And our goal is to keep animals in homes. So one of the things that we'll want to know is, we'll try and get to a really honest reason of why they're surrendering the animal. Some people are ashamed or reluctant to say that they may have a reason that they don't want to talk about, but we really want to get to the heart of it so that we can find out more information about that animal's behavior and profile, find the right home for them going forward. And also, sometimes it's something that we can help them solve. There have been plenty of circumstances where somebody is trying to surrender a dog, for example, that has some behavior problems. And we're just going to work with that dog in our program. Why don't we work with that dog while he's still in his home? If they're committed to that dog and they love them, there's a lot of resources that we can offer. Sometimes they need some spay-neuter resources, behavior training, things like that, advice, counseling. And if there's a way that we can preserve that relationship and keep that bond intact, that's the best interest of that animal. So in that sense, we try and talk people out of it. If somebody just isn't able or willing to care for their animal anymore, then we certainly just want to bring them into the program, give them a soft landing, and help them find a new start.
Okay. I totally lost the train of thought.
The process for surrender?
Yeah.
So there's
Thank you. Like,
it sort of depends on the type of animal. So we handle it differently at the small animal shelter than we do in the barn.
Okay.
We're still an open admission shelter for the barn, but we can't really have somebody pull up with a horse trailer and 5 horses. Those we need to schedule. So it doesn't mean that we won't take them, but it means that we just need to schedule a date.
A little more planning is
a little more
involved.
planning. It's a bigger animal. Some additional resources are needed. But with companion animals, there's no appointment needed. Folks are willing to or invited to come in anytime the shelter's open during the week, which is Tuesday through Friday, from 12 to 4, and bring us their animal. We do always try and warn people that it's not a quick drop off. We want to take some time to get some information about behavior, medical information, anything that they have, just so that we have a good understanding of the animal's needs that we're now being charged with, and also so that we can help try and find the right home going forward. We ask for a donation at the time of surrender to help offset some of the cost of their care, but it's not required. We certainly don't want people to maybe find a less suitable
You don't want to just
solution.
dump the cat or dump the animal.
We don't want them to leave
somewhere.
them loose on the property. Every now and then we have people that will just surrender an animal in an inappropriate place on the property. We had somebody leave bunnies on the back porch of the house that I work in,
Okay.
and it's in a box that blended in with other things. So that's something we really want to discourage. So we try and make it a non-judgmental, open, easy process, so that the best needs of the animal are being met.
Now, do you ever encounter like any strays?
We do. So.
Or, you're the shelter itself, as opposed to like people saying this cat's been hanging out in my backyard for.
Oh, you mean strays on the property?
Yeah.
Yes. It does happen every now and then.
Partly because people just randomly leave the animals there.
And that's usually what we think. That's the first thing we suspect. There were stray chickens recently before our beer tasting event, and barn staff that were going to help me parade some animals through got called off to wrangle the stray chickens that were behind the maintenance shed because somebody had set them loose. That was their way of surrendering them.
That doesn't sound like a really fun.
It wasn't the best way to do it.
Just picture reading the job description. 1, clean the barn. 2, run after chickens.
It is kind of
other duties as assigned. I'd hate to see what those were.
Something different every day.
So how when you find these random animals, or even in some other situations, how do you know? Is there like a waiting process before the animal becomes adoptable, or are there other ways that you try finding who the real owner is before? Because,
of course,
in the event that
somebody's
an animal does run away, you don't want the people coming and saying, hey, but that was, my dog, give him back.
That was Fluffy. That's an interesting question. For dogs, there's a stray hold for, I believe it's 7 days in the state of Massachusetts.
Okay.
Could be 10, I could be wrong. So typically they go to animal control for their stray hold, and then once that's up or almost up, they come to us, get ready for adoption. And that gives the owners a period of time to conduct a search for their dog, contact shelters. If they're microchipped, we would find their microchip. It's one of the first things that we do when an animal comes in is scan them for a microchip. Collar and tags are great.
Do you put microchips in?
We do.
Before animals are adopted, if they don't have one?
Yes. Everybody gets a microchip before they leave and get spayed and neutered, and vaccinations. It's non-negotiable. So, tags would be great. Not every animal keeps their tags on, or not every animal is given tags.
Sometimes they lose them too.
They do.
Like
I have a cat that just keeps taking them off. Leaves them by the door. But we also keep a database of lost animals that are reported to us. So when people contact us and say, this is what my cat looks like, here's a photo, here's the vicinity that he went missing in and the dates, we keep that on file for a period of time so that we cross and check that before every animal is admitted to the program. So we try and match them up. That's the first thing we want to do. The easiest solution is just to find them back at home. We are encouraging people that contact us about stray cats in their yard to put, those paper collars that you see on the cats in the shelters. We're encouraging people to put their phone number on that. If the cat looks well and they don't seem to be at risk, put that on them with their phone number and say, call me. Because oftentimes what we're finding is that stray cats are actually owned by somebody a few doors down. And we've had that happen a number of times.
The cat just goes around and gets
just
chicken here and
Yep.
tuna there.
Yep. There's a famous story of a cat in the UK that two people ended up both believing they owned. There was a legal battle over him, and he actually just had many families that he visited. So that happens with community cats and or loosely owned cats, or even just cats that are owned by somebody and they go out every night. So we try and make sure that we're not stealing anybody's cat and rehoming it. So we definitely don't want to do that.
Now, in addition to microchipping, spaying, neutering, vaccinating, all that kind of stuff, do you encourage the new owners to make cats indoor cats and bunnies? Should bunnies stay inside, or could they have like a hutch outside? Or
we adopt to indoor situations for bunnies.
Okay.
We have a large number of rabbits that come into us this time of year because they're outdoor rabbits, and it can be hard to care for them outside in the winter, and it's definitely difficult. So we adopt indoor homes for bunnies. For cats, we definitely encourage people to keep them inside. I think they can have a nice, happy life being primarily indoors. There are some cats that don't tolerate that well, and we recognize that. And then we have some cats that we just know don't live indoors well. Those are typically cats that we admit into our somewhat new barn cat program. We've had it for a few years, but those are cats that have outdoor experience, so they're already skilled.
They may have been feral,
or they were just indoor-outdoor cats, but they're friendly, but they are either reactive to just being caged and being inside, or they might have some litter box problems and prefer to pee outside rather than just inside. So those cats are typically cats that would be very tricky to adopt into great homes otherwise, and we find that they have tremendously great success in a barn cat program with careful counseling and vetting of the barn and making sure that everybody knows how to keep the cat acclimated and get them to stay on the property. But so the answer is yes and no on the indoor question.
Because I'm just thinking, when I was growing up, we always had the cats indoor, outdoor, wherever the cats felt like being. But now with, feline leukemia, and we have coyotes in our yard, we have foxes in our yard. You know. There's so many predators that are moving in on suburbia. I'm just wondering, do you advise people against? You really don't want to do that.
It's we always think it's definitely safer if you can do it indoor. I think that gives them a longer guarantee on a safe, happy home.
Okay. Now, I remember reading on your website that you have a specific lost and found program. Did you? We have been talking about some of that. Is there anything you want to add about the lost?
Same thing with found dogs. We can we can cross-check our database to help people understand if that animal's been identified as missing and connect them back up with their owner. We also cross-post dogs on things like Granite State Dog Recovery or Lost Dogs of Massachusetts to try and match any animals coming into our program that we are not sure of their previous ownership on. So we definitely want to try and match them back up with their previous owner if we can.
Now, do you use social media a lot? Like, I remember, on my Facebook feed, I see a lot of different shelters and, rescue leagues posting, do you know this cat? Have you seen this dog? And do you use that a lot?
We don't use our own page for that because Granite State and Missing Dogs Massachusetts are so well developed, and that's where everybody is really going to do that cross-check. So we use our page primarily to focus on the animals that we have that are available for adoption, our programs, and resources and services, and then we just go to the pages that are already doing a much better job than we would of posting lost dogs. You have a cough. No, we have a little kennel cough. So
do dogs get fur balls?
Sure, why not?
She's got a lot of fur.
She's got a lot of fur, but she doesn't shed that much. She's really somewhat perfect.
Oh,
yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
So is there an average stay that an animal would have at the shelter?
It totally depends on the animal. So we have typically cats will go fairly quickly. If you see them for more than a month, you start to think, wow, that cat's been here for a while.
Okay.
We might need to do something special to promote them. Easy dogs like her go quickly. Yes, you're very easy. I didn't mean that in a bad way. But every now and then we have dogs with more special needs, either behavioral, medical, or both. And some of those take quite a bit of time.
Now, do you think breed has anything to do with it? Because I know like a lot of people are afraid of pit bulls because of the bad press that they've gotten.
We're actually seeing them sort of swing back into favor. So they're overrepresented in the fact that they have slightly longer stays, just because there's some limitations with renting and owning a pit bull. Some insurance companies discriminate based on your breed and won't provide you liability coverage for your home.
Wow.
There's some legislation to change that right now that's percolating if people are interested. But we see sometimes Chihuahuas that stay for a while if they're a little bit more difficult. So it really runs the gamut. But we've had some dogs
like the farm animals, like the pigs and the horses and the chickens.
Well, yeah. We have some farm pigs that have been with us for a while. Farm pigs, a cow, things like that are a little harder to adopt out when you can't use them for food. Because
you're kind of narrowing down your audience.
It's a very niche audience that wants to have a farm pig in their backyard. Potbellies are a little bit easier. A giant farm pig takes quite a while.
I think there's somebody in our neighborhood that has a potbelly pig. I remember, taking a walk around the neighborhood and seeing somebody with a pig on a leash.
Oh, that's so cute.
I'm like,
that's different, but it's really cute.
Every day.
No, that doesn't happen every day, but it's really cute when it does. But so we've had some steer that will stay with us for a few years. Buster has been with us. He's one of our farm pigs. He's been with us since he was a piglet. He's probably about 5 years old now. But he has a new girlfriend that's been with us for about a year. So it's Bet and Buster. They're now a pair. And we do our best to give them a great, happy home so that they don't know any different. They don't know that they don't have their own permanent family.
Excellent. Now, how do you care for the various animals on the shelter? Do you have like veterinarians on staff? Do you have like traveling veterinarians? And my cat just went through dental work and, with all the spaying and the neutering and, that we've already talked about. How do you start figuring out a method for that?
It's an art. We have a surgical suite where we do spay neuter and where our vets work out of, and it's busy all the time.
Now, are the vets part of your staff, or do they just come in from local area
We have
hospitals?
some vets on staff, and they are busy full-time working on spaying, neutering, and taking care of the animals that come into our program in the shelter. It's interesting that you say dentals. We just got a dental x-ray so that we can do more comprehensive dentals on our cats. We're finding that...
because brushing my cat's teeth is just not going to happen.
It doesn't usually... I've tried that with one of my cats, and he got so upset he threw up, so I didn't do it again.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
But we are finding that with some of the success of our really targeted intensive spay-neuter initiatives for cats, that we're not seeing the same number of cats coming into the program anymore, which is wonderful. It's exactly what we wanted. It's actually been a tremendous drop over the past 10 years. And now our population is starting to skew a little bit older. And we're able to provide a lot more care. With a smaller cat population, we're able to provide a lot more care for some of those animals. And one of the things that, you probably know with cats is that as they get older, they tend to have some dental needs. So we spend a lot of time, our vets spend a lot of time doing dentals. It's something that is a hot spot on the calendar to get dental scheduled so that somebody can go up for adoption and go home. But it's something that we want to make sure happens for them before they go back into their new homes, and so that they're ready. And then with the farm animals, there's no vet on staff, but we have an ambulatory vet, a few of them that are on call that come out to help us with just regular health and wellness checks, lameness evaluations, or we even have a traveling veterinary dentist that comes out to float the horse's teeth.
Wow.
It's interesting when they come.
Interesting.
No,
that's a loaded word there.
Oh, no, it's fun to see a horse get their teeth done.
Do they have to sedate them, Or?
They sedate them,
Okay.
and they once they're sedated, they ratchet their mouth open so that
wow.
obviously, so it stays open. And they horses need to have their teeth grinded. Basically, that's what floating is. And so they,
okay.
and if that's not done properly and their teeth aren't maintained, they can't chew their food properly and get the right nutrients. So a lot of times when you see horses that are emaciated, one of the first things you sort of look at is their teeth to see if they're even able to, maybe they're taking food in, but maybe they're not able to really eat it and digest it because their teeth are in bad condition.
And llamas have nasty teeth, so they definitely. Remember going to a farm, the bottom teeth are just like.
I know, but that's so cute.
So
ugly,
it's
cute.
I'm just like, yeah, they probably need dental work. So tell me more about your foster program, because we talked a little bit about, the high profile cases. Some of them came and stayed on the farm, others were fostered. What kind of animals, how many animals are fostered?
For the equine center, our primary need for fosters are horses. Every now and then we have a pig that goes into foster, just to give us some more room, or because the pig
doesn't play well with others.
Yeah, maybe isn't doing well on the property and is going to be better off in that circumstance. Donkeys, goats, they can go into foster, but usually we rely on our foster program to help us make some space. And the horses that we typically send off to foster are ones that can maybe get some training while they're in their placement, and either get started under saddle, get a few more skills so that they're even more ready to be adopted when the time comes. Right, exactly. And so we're always looking for people that are interested in fostering our horses. We provide still for all of their medical care and their farrier services, and the foster families provide food and their shelter. It's a little bit different at the companion animal shelter side of things. We don't typically foster out dogs just because dogs, for the most part, are adopted so quickly. Every now and then. I
wasn't sure if it was like a bonding thing with
No.
dogs.
Dogs go usually pretty quickly. And so the dogs that we'll send to foster are sometimes dogs that we need a little bit more information about. So maybe a dog that's been with us for a while and is really nervous in the shelter, and we want to know, how's he going to be in a home environment? Is he more comfortable? What can we tell people about what he's going to look like when he's not stressed in a cage at the shelter, even though we're doing everything we can to make this not a scary place.
It's still a shelter environment.
It's still a shelter environment. And so we have some really classic success stories with dogs that were really stressed and overwhelmed and showing poorly at the shelter, that we sent them to foster, learned a whole bunch of interesting things about them, and then
do they go back to the shelter?
They come back to the shelter to be adopted. Sometimes depending on the foster family, if they're willing, we can send people to their house to meet the dog, but that's definitely not a requirement. And every now and then they just stay in foster forever and they fail, and that works out too. Now that's great, because
I'm afraid to become a foster parent for animals, because I'd probably, get them, fall in love with them, and then be the crazy cat lady with 40 cats and 6 dogs, and not a horse.
It's
maybe
a threat.
A goat, but
goats are nice. I've been a foster failure myself, but I'd say most of the time you really want them to go and just find the next spot in their life, and so it's really rewarding to be able to help them get back into a healthy state, or become a little bit more social, or whatever it is that they need, and then see them get adopted.
Now, I remember hearing a long time ago, and I don't know if it's just a myth, but if a cat is surrendered and she's pregnant, she can't be adopted, so she goes into the foster system until she has her kittens, and the kittens are old enough to be adopted, and then everybody goes back to the shelter?
So what we typically do...
How does that work?
Most of the time we'll spay cats if they come in pregnant. And so then mom will just go up for adoption. If she comes in as a nursing mother, then we'll send everybody off to foster, and so that's typically the most common animal that we have fostered out of the shelter are moms with kittens during kitten season, or just orphan kittens.
When is kitten season?
All the time, but really spring. It starts.
All the time.
It starts in spring. We see a spike. I mean, cats are able to go into heat whenever there's an opportunity. So if there's a good situation in their environment, they can go into heat and reproduce. But typically, you'll see a large spike in springtime and summer, and that's when the pressure's on for us, when we've got a lot of cats and kittens coming in. So we'll try to get them off property into a nice quiet home so that they're not as stressed and so that they're not exposed to upper respiratory, things like that. Cats are really good at getting colds, and it can be very hard for them to recover from. And with kittens, with no immune system, you really just don't want that to happen.
Yeah,
so we send them off to foster. They grow up when they're 2 pounds or 2 months. They come in, get spayed and neutered, usually on a Monday or Tuesday. Then they can go up for adoption on Wednesday, Thursday.
And they're gone by Friday.
And they're usually gone by Friday, yeah. So people ask us a lot, you know, do you have kittens? Do you have kittens? I come in on the weekends and I don't see kittens. And the answer is, you're probably not going to. So if you want kittens, you can call us and ask, and we'll tell you when cats are coming back from foster. But we have it scheduled so that they have surgery, go up for adoption, go home, and spend as few days in the shelter exposed to anything as possible.
Okay. Speaking of that, if someone wanted a specific kind of animal, like a kitten, or, you know, wanted a Maine Coon cat, or wanted a Dalmatian, or wanted, can you put in requests?
We don't maintain a list because it would be the longest list ever, and we just wouldn't. We just physically wouldn't be able to manage it. So what we encourage people to do is call or check back. They can visit our website at mspca.org/Nevins, and we have a list of our adoptable animals through Pet Finder. Not everybody's on there because, as you can imagine, we care for almost 7,000 animals a year. So getting all of them on Pet Finder,
a full-time job.
A photo, it just the population changes constantly. But usually, if we have something like that exotic, we would get it up pretty quickly. Not to say that the ones that aren't on there are not exotic or interesting, but
understood.
Yeah, so we just encourage people, if they're looking for something really specific, to just monitor our site and reach out to us. And anytime we have what they're looking for, we'll tell them right away and love to get them in.
So, how do you know what kind of pet is right for you? Do you give anybody guidance? Like if they come in and they're like,
yes.
I want a Doberman, but I live in a, you know, downtown Boston in a 300 square foot apartment.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely one of our main jobs is to help people figure out what's going to work best for them. And that's a conversation that we have with every person that comes in.
She's shedding.
It's sticking to my lip gloss. So a lot of times, you know, people may be coming in looking for a dog when maybe a guinea pig's a better pet for their family lifestyle. And that's the conversation that we want to have with them. And that's going to be a better outcome for the animal, and it'll make them happier too. So that is something that our staff and volunteers are trained to have as a conversation.
My daughter has a Cat in the Hat book that talks about, the pets you can get.
Oh, no.
And it talks about, you know, if you have the time to, you know, if you want a dog, remember that a puppy can grow up to 10 times its size, and you have to have time to play with the dog. And, you know, if you want a guinea pig, you know, you need a cage and you need to be able to clean it, and this is what they eat. And
that's great.
You know, so it goes through the whole process, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I just wasn't sure. You know,
we do too.
Not everybody reads Dr. Seuss, so. And another thing in that book is, why is it important to adopt a pet from a shelter as opposed to going to a breeder or?
You know, we love people to come and give animals a second chance. So every animal that's at the shelter is there because they need a second start in life. And so there's really nothing more rewarding than giving an animal a new home when they're sitting there without a family of their own. When you buy an animal from a pet store, you are not able to tell really what their origin is. And so with puppies, it's quite often the case that they're coming from puppy mills, which
those are scary.
You know, the puppy may look good and healthy at the time that you're buying it from a pet store, and even if they are, you really need to consider the conditions that his parents are coming from, what they're living in. And if you want, you know, do you want to further cruelty?
Continue the. You know,
are you going to endorse that system? Right. So you know, we think that opting to adopt and give a needy animal a home is a really generous thing to do.
I like it.
I like it too.
Last couple of pets have been from shelters. So actually, yeah, I think 3 of the last 4 pets. And the really cute little cat that I told you earlier that had the heart condition. Somebody just had an ad in the paper, free kittens.
Yep.
So.
And certainly there's nothing wrong with, if there's a certain breed that you're in love with, there's nothing at all wrong with getting an animal from a reputable breeder, but you really need to do your research and visit their home, see where the parents live, see how they're living, get to know what their practices are, how often are they breeding the animals, what's their return policy if it doesn't work out. You want to meet the parents and make sure that they're nice and they're friendly and they're healthy. So, there's nothing wrong with a reputable breeder, but you're in charge of a life, so you need to make sure that you're making good choices about kindness.
Exactly.
Right.
So we talked a little bit about it. We're starting to touch upon it. How would someone go about adopting an animal from Nevins Farm?
So it's different depending on the animal. If it's an equine or farm animal or chicken, anything like that.
It's a farm animal.
It's a farm animal. Then we would need some information about where they're living. We'd do a home check for a horse. We'd need pictures of the coop if it's a chicken or a duck. We have lots and lots and lots of chickens and ducks and roosters and geese. All things flighted.
Geese are pretty mean. I don't know if I'd want one
They're
for a pet.
great guard animals.
Yeah, okay, I could see that.
But we had one recently that you could pick up and hold and give hugs to. So,
wow.
You never know. But if it's a cat or dog, really, or a small animal, it's more of a conversation. So we want to make sure that you're allowed to have pets in your house. So bring a copy of your lease or show us that you own your property, and then we know that you're allowed to have. There's no restrictions, but
so like a waiting period or anything?
No, it's really it's called open adoption. So it's really more about a conversation. We want to know that it's going to be the right fit. We want to know that you're prepared. But a lot of those things you can find out by talking to somebody. It doesn't need to be something that we're coming to your house and we're checking for a fence and I
wasn't sure if you had to get like reference, 3 professional.
We used to. It used to be that way. And it's cumbersome. It's time consuming. It can be really off-putting to people. It's not a very open and welcoming process. It can seem really invasive. And the truth is that that's a nice noise. The truth is that you're going to find a quality home by having a conversation, and you'll figure all that stuff out by asking the right questions. Right. So, there's been a sense for a long time that shelters can be very judgmental, and it can be hard to adopt from a shelter because of restrictions and waiting periods and things like that. And we're trying to break those barriers down so that it's an easy, fun place to go and find your new family member.
Now, sometimes, like when we went to visit the shelter, there were a lot of signs that said, "I am adopted." Why are they not gone?
Oh, they're probably either just waiting a day or two because they're adopted, but the family just didn't have their supplies in place. Every now and then they're waiting to have a dental done, or they haven't been spayed yet, and we're definitely not letting anybody go home without being spayed or neutered. So it's usually just a small holding period at that point, if that's the case.
Because I'm like, why did they take you home? You're so cute. I want to take you home now.
They're going home. Don't worry.
I got the carrier in my car. What are the costs involved in adopting like a cat or a dog? Or let's stick with the
ones
domestic.
that most people get.
Yeah. Because I don't think there are too many people in Burlington that could adopt a horse.
That's too bad.
There might be, but more likely
cats and dogs.
Cats and dogs and guinea pigs and.
It depends on their age and if it's a cat or a dog. Puppies are in very high demand, and so they're a little bit more expensive. But cats range from $90 to $200 for a senior cat to kittens. And dogs range from, I believe it's $500 for a puppy, and to maybe about $150, I think, for an adult dog. Or $250, but that includes all of their vaccinations. It includes spay, neuter, and microchip. So they're really coming home with services that would cost you far more than that at your local veterinarian.
Now, adopting a dog, you also have to get the license from
You'll need to
the
get the dog license.
individual has to get
Yeah.
the dog license.
Yep, they'll have to follow up
Are
their.
there costs involved in licensing?
It's minimal. I think it's about $25 or $50.
Okay.
It's pretty inexpensive, and usually you just need to be able to show that the dog is also current on rabies,
Okay.
the rabies
Now,
vaccination.
do you guys
So
do the rabies shots?
that's one of the vaccinations
Okay.
they'd go home with. But also twice a year we have a low-cost vaccination clinic.
Oh,
So you know, we always recommend that everybody establish a relationship with their local veterinarian and have their pet seen annually for health and wellness checks. But we certainly recognize that there's some folks that can't afford to do that or just aren't going to get there for some reason, and or they just want a lower cost option for vaccination. So every October, and usually it's in April, we have a low cost vaccine clinic.
Oh, okay.
And
now, do you have to make an appointment for
Nope,
that?
they're
just,
walk-in.
Oh, okay.
So if people are interested, they just need to watch our social media and our website, and we announce
okay.
all that stuff. But we do them for $15 each, which is it's like
That's
a
not
bargain.
bad. Yeah.
We also do microchipping on a walk-in basis for $25,
Okay.
which is a tremendous deal.
Now, a
Anytime
long time ago, there used to be like different microchip readers.
there still are different companies, but they're trying to
Okay.
have a more universal reader,
Okay.
so that
Because I was wondering, like, if my cat was microchipped by company A, would you be able to read it if?
yeah, well, we have several different types, but it can
Okay.
be prohibitive for animal control officers or other places that you know you really want to have that you really need to have them have access to a quality reader that works and picks up on all the microchips.
Now, we talked earlier about staff.
Mm-hmm.
How do volunteers fit in the picture at Nevins Farm?
Oh my God, we'd be lost without them. They're basically unpaid staff, so that's
Okay.
really how I think about them. They do the lion's share of work. We have minimal staff. We can't afford to pay everybody for all the work that we need done at the property. So we really only are able to exist because of the kindness of our community in terms of financial contributions, and then really in volunteer hours. So we have volunteers even in the barn, walking stalls, helping us with the horses and all the farm animals or the chickens, and then a huge staff of volunteers that help us with caring for the animals in the companion shelter, helping us with special events, helping us with animal promotions
Walking the
off-site,
dogs and-
walking the dogs, helping with our humane education programs and our reading programs, our summer
Which I want
camp.
to talk about those too. And we're
Yeah.
running out of time.
We have so much stuff that goes on that the volunteers all can get involved in. So, you know, if people think, oh, I really want to come, but I don't want to clean cages, you don't have to. There's a million ways that you can be involved.
So tell me about some of those other programs. I recently learned about the reading program, so let's talk about that.
That's new. We've only rolled that out recently. It's pretty cool. I believe it's once a month. We have
Need
hours.
to do it more.
We probably will. We were just testing it out first to see how
Okay.
it went, and the answer is it's gone really well, and it's been very popular. But because who doesn't like to read to animals?
Yeah.
So we have a program for young readers to come in before we open and read to our animals. So it's a nice, easy way for kids to develop some reading skills that are maybe a little bit more nervous, and spend some time with a shelter animal. We've got some of the cutest pictures of kids curled up with a cat curled up in their lap reading them a book.
That's
And
how I found out
the
about it.
cats
is-
love it. The
yeah.
dogs love it. We do it with guinea pigs and rabbits. You know, pretty much every animal in the shelter.
Now, how do you choose which animal is able to participate in this program? Because I have one cat that would, sit on your lap, just like Theory's doing, and
Yeah.
sit there the entire time, and the other cat was like, no, can't be bothered, and walk away.
Yeah.
So-
We try our best to figure out who's going to be cooperative.
Okay.
And then sometimes they change their mind midway through. But guinea pigs, things like that, are a little bit easier because they can just sit in somebody's lap. And then some cats, the kids can actually go and sit on the edge of their cage if they're in one of their big colony rooms,
Oh, okay.
our showcases. And then that makes it a nice, easy spot for everybody to be.
Excellent. Can't wait to do that.
Yeah, it's neat. It's really neat.
Now, there's also like I don't want to say a preschool, but there's like a younger kid program on Friday mornings or something.
Little Bookworms.
Okay.
That's also free. It's 10:30 on Fridays. We take the summers off because we have summer camp going on. But
Okay.
it's just a free program for about a half hour at 10:30 where Toddlers and young kids can come in with their family. We read a story about animals. They meet a few adoptive animals, and then they can go and meet some of them in the shelter before we open. It's pretty special.
And what are there some other programs?
There's a lot of other programs for kids.
Okay.
So we recognize that there's quite a portion of children that would like to volunteer but are not old enough yet. You need to be 16 to be in our formal adoption or volunteer program. So we've developed some opportunities for them at younger ages. We have a junior volunteer program for the early teens and younger kids, where they can come in and help with some specific chores and tasks. We have Family Service Day, which is typically on school holidays that even a younger subset of children can come in with a family member and volunteer as a group. And then we have school break programs for kids that are, on winter break from school. It usually follows the Massachusetts school break calendar, and they'll come in for a few hours and learn about animals and help with some chores, meet some cute guys, take some of them out for walks. And then our summer camp program is by far our most popular
how old
children's
do you have to
programming.
be to participate in the summer camp program?
Summer camp is, I think it's grades 2 through high school.
Entering grade 2 or having completed grade 2?
Entering.
Okay.
And so that sells out like crazy. It's wildly popular, and we'd love to expand it. And kids, they're week-long sessions, so they'll spend all day, every day helping with our animals. They have dodgeball games, they tie-dye shirts, they meet barn animals, they do stuff with the companion animals. They really get all over the property. They learn about kindness and caring for animals. It's a really unique program. It's fun. Kids love it. And we have some kids that come back year after year, and then we have a number of them that have then become our volunteers, and some that are even our staff now.
Wow.
Yeah. So they stuck with it.
That's pretty good.
It is neat.
So how would someone go about becoming a volunteer or participating in some of these programs?
They can visit our website at mspca.org/Nevins, and for all of the kids programming, those are housed under our humane education programs. So they can look for the titles for junior volunteer, family service day, things like that. If you're over 16 and you want to become a regular volunteer, either in the shelter or in the barn, we ask everybody to sign up for an orientation day. And we have a great presentation. I've gone through it myself about Nevins Farm and the history of the property and what we do there. And you learn about all of the programs and everything that happens there. And at the end of that, you're asked, are you interested in working with cats or dogs, or do you want to work at the barn? We set them up with some mentoring sessions. And
so you don't necessarily need extensive experience
not at all.
for horses?
No, you could have never held a chicken in your life, but we'll teach you how to do that. So people can go to that same web address, mspca.org/Nevins, and they just click on volunteer, and then that'll get them linked up with an orientation date.
Now, are there becoming a volunteer, there's a lot of training that's involved, and the staff invests a lot of time and effort. Are there requirements like you must volunteer at least 2 hours a week or at least for a year, or are there?
We used to, but we found that that's just cumbersome, and we want people to come and volunteer if they're going to make a commitment to the program, because like you said, we are investing some time and resources in organizing all of it. But if it doesn't work for them, that's fine. Or if their life changes and they don't have a whole lot of time that they can give, it's not a problem. People that spend more time volunteering have different opportunities available to them and can be involved in things like our cat task force or our dog task force, our behavior mod squad. So they are then able to dig in a little bit deeper, but that doesn't mean that we're not interested in people that only have a few hours a month. We'd still love to have them help us.
Now, do they have to do during the week, or can they come and volunteer on? Are you open on Sundays as well?
Yeah, Saturdays and Sundays.
Saturdays and Sundays.
And then
you're closed on Mondays.
Closed on Mondays, but we still have volunteer opportunities. I mean, we're closed, but the animals are
the
still
public for adoptions.
It's just the one day that the shelter's closed, and the barn. But we still have. It's actually a great day to volunteer because it's quiet. There's no massive public coming in at noon, so. Some people actually really prefer volunteering on Mondays, and it gives you some quiet time at the shelter.
And I think we ended up going one year to the adoption fee waiver day.
Oh, we just
and
had
we
one of
didn't
those.
know that it was adoption fee waiver day, and we couldn't get into the lobby. It was so crowded.
We just had one of those for cats, and we literally cleared all of our adoptable cats out. It was amazing. It was crazy, but we've
awesome.
never seen so many cars on the property. It was pretty special.
And I
day.
like, don't you write the names on the
We do,
windows?
yeah.
That's so cool.
I love it. It is really cool. Yeah, we love to see that list build.
Now, I think we had mentioned fundraising. What kind of fundraising efforts? How many? What do you do? And do you have any upcoming ones?
We do. We always have special events throughout the year, and that's one way that we, it's our fun way for raising funds for our animals. And then there's certain programs and funds that we just look for support through just financial donations throughout the year. Some of those are like our medical fund for horses, which is Ashton's Hope Fund, or Angels for Animals, which is our medical fund for our companion animals. Buy a bale is a way that you can, for $7, buy a bale of hay to help feed our horses. So it doesn't have to be some huge, giant financial contribution. You don't need to give us $1,000. $7 can help us feed a horse. And how good does that feel?
Yeah.
So there's a
I
million.
took care of a horse today.
Yeah, really. You're helping us feed. It's one of the most basic things that our animals need, but sometimes that's the one thing that they're really lacking when they come in. So that can make a big difference for them. And then we have several.
I've been to your Tails and Ales before, and
yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
That is a lot of fun. That is our most popular event. That's our beer tasting, our local craft beer tasting that we have in July. I know, that one's really cool. It always sells out too, so it's getting more and more popular every year and selling out earlier and earlier. It's usually at the end of July, last Saturday typically. We have a golf tournament in September. Typically we have our Walk for Animals in September as well. We have a beach ride for horses, so people that own a horse and want to join us on the beach can do some fundraising and help.
Cool.
It is. It was at Crane Beach this year.
That
it was
beautiful.
Just beautiful.
Wow.
It's so stunning. We have smaller things like right now we have pies for pets, so people can buy pies for Thanksgiving.
The Thanksgiving.
Yeah. And our holiday tree lighting is coming up.
Tell me more about that.
This one's really
That sounds
special.
fun.
It's just a great way to kick off the holiday season. We open our entire property, and people can come and help us light our tree for the first time. And then our barn's open. They can bring carrots and apples and peppermints to help fill the stockings of our horses. It's called Holiday Tree and Christmas Feast for the Horses, so it sort of harkens back to when Nevins Farm was a rest home for the horses, and the tradition of a Christmas feast in Boston for the working horses. So we've sort of combined that, and we do that now for ours. Santa comes. We have a beautiful tree in the front of our property that is decorated with ornaments commemorating people's pets, which they can make a donation for that online, send us a photo, and we'll get them on our tree.
Neat.
And then we
It's
light
an
that for the
outdoor
first
tree?
time. Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
And we light that for the first time. It's really beautiful.
Wow.
So that's December 5th from 4:30 to 6:30. There's no cost to attend. It's open to the public.
It's free.
It's free. We raise money at that event through the ornaments that people can purchase to decorate the tree. So it's a great time to come see it, but the tree's up throughout the holidays. So until the end of the year, right after New Year's, we bring that down. So
now the filling the stocking for the horses, is that just on that day? Or
just on that day.
Okay. And when do you give them to the horses?
Then and throughout the month of December, they have so many carrots and apples and peppermints. At that point, they're usually pretty happy. It's a special event. It's really pretty cool.
And information about that it's
on the website too. It's mspca.org/Nevins. If you want to check out the ornaments, it's mspca.org/2015 Nevins tree. But you can find everything at mspca.org/Nevins as well.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think somebody's waking up because she knows we are out of time.
She's ready to go back.
She's ready to go back in her carrier. Well, thank you very much, Julia,
Thank
for coming.
you. This was fun.
It was fun talking about animals, and you were very well behaved.
She was perfect.
And I can't wait to get back up to the farm.
Oh, well,
so
come see us again soon.
So thank you very much. And I would like to thank everyone at home for tuning in. Hope you have a safe Thanksgiving and a wonderful holiday season, and hope to see you around town. Good night.
Oh, she's
She's
drinking.
biting the water.